Welcome back to Planting Seeds. So it's been a while. Can't remember when I did my last podcast episode, but I know it's been a few weeks maybe, and I want to apologize for that, but I've been just kind of reflecting on, what I should do long term with the podcast and everything, and been trying to focus on my family and situations I've been dealing with my personal life. And one of them I'm going to talk about today because it's going to be following me for probably at least 6 weeks. So my birthday was on May 27th, and I was turning 40. So I'm currently 40 now, and that's crazy to think about because I don't know, I keep being told by family members that I don't look my age. Maybe they're just being kind, but whatever. Anyways, I feel 40, and I've kind of felt that way for a while. Never more so than I do right now, because on the 25th, I was at a birthday party with one of my girls for one of her friends, and we went to a roller skating rink. And I haven't roller skated since I was in high school, so I think you can figure out where this is going, but I didn't do so well. I was skating with her and trying to keep her steady because she didn't know what she was doing either. And she had one of those walker things. And we were just getting ready to get off the rink because she wanted a break because she was getting stressed out. So we were really close to getting off. And then she started wobbling, and I went to go steady her, and I fell and broke my elbow. So I spent my birthday weekend in pain, and still, at least right now, when I release this episode, I'm going to not have my cast yet. I get my cast tomorrow. So yeah, by then I'll know if I have to have surgery or how long I'm actually going to be in a cast. So I don't even know. But this brings me to what I wanted to talk about today. This podcast is not meant to sound at all like I'm bragging on myself, because anyone who knows me well should know once I start talking that this is not about me. This is about how God changes people and seeing fruit of that. So today I'm going to try to brag on God. So from the moment I fell and hurt myself, I was calm and at peace. I mean, yes, it hurt really bad, and I immediately laid myself down because I have a history of passing out over certain things, and I could feel it was coming on. Because the moment it happened, I couldn't feel my hand, my wrist. I thought for sure I had broken my wrist, and I was just not feeling good at all. So I just laid down. My daughter's crying. I'm trying to keep her calm because I don't want her to worry or freak out, even though in my mind, I know I broke something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I broke something. It really felt like it was my wrist because that's where it hurt the most. So everybody else was there. They were helping. I was really calm. I guess at one point I did pass out from shock. But when I came to, I was able to tell them to, they can call my husband. He wasn't far away from us with the other kiddos, so he came back to check on me. The EMTs were there. They checked on me. I was in a lot of pain. I felt bad for my daughter because I didn't want her to feel scared to skate again. Like, I was not focused on me and my personal feelings about this. It wasn't about me. I felt sad for her. I felt embarrassed that I did this at her friend's birthday party, thinking, I ruined it or whatever. Like, I wasn't totally focused on me and my stuff. Although I will say there was a slight moment as soon as it happened where I was like, what if I can't write anymore? Which it was obvious that I was going to be in pain and it was not going to be a thing. But anyone who knows me knows that writing novels is my thing. It's what I love to do. So to not be able to do that would be hard. But, that was probably the only selfish thought, I guess, that went through my brain in that first little bit of when it was happening. But I was laying down, answering all their questions. The kid who was working on the accident report, I guess it was his first accident report, so he was really nervous, and I just tried to keep him calm and encourage him that he was doing good. There was a nurse who came over, the EMTs. I was very nice to them. I was chuckling. I was laughing because it was only a couple days before my birthday because they asked how old I was, and I told them, and they're like, oh no, they were being kind and gracious and loving, and I was trying to do the same. Because I knew from that moment, as soon as I went down and hurt myself, I knew that God was doing something. So anyone who knows me well will know that I sometimes need to learn things the hard way. If you know my story, you know that I've had 2 previous marriages, and the second one came at the expense of, the second one happened in the way that it did, I think mostly because of my stubborn attitude, and God knew what it was going to take to get my attention back on him. So without going into detail about that, since that's not what it's about today, that's what happened. And in this situation, it wasn't so much that I was being defiant about anything. It was more I had been praying that God would give me a chance to work on my relationship with him, to not feel so scatterbrained. I just wanted to have a deeper relationship with him, be able to focus on him more. And I wanted to control my temper. I had these things in mind that I wanted him to help me through. And I assumed this was the way he was going to do it, because what I was asking for was to have more time with him. And I know that I had been super focused on writing, which is what I love to do. And also I've been really getting into Fortnite. So I had been playing that a lot too. And I knew in the back of my mind that I needed to make sure that God stayed first. And I tried to do that. I would read my Bible. I would pray first thing in the morning. I would read my Bible before I did any of those other things that I wanted to do. But in my mind, it felt like I was just trying to check off boxes. It didn't really feel like I was doing it because I wanted to or because I wanted to make time for him. So that's what I had been praying, is that I would get my priorities straight, basically. So from the moment I went down and hurt myself and realized I'm not going to be able to write or play video games, that's when I realized that God's doing something and I want to learn. So once they were able to get me off the rink and get me into the ambulance, it was so painful. I don't know if you've broken a bone, I guess you would understand, but if you haven't, it's not easy to what's the word? It's not easy to explain, basically, the pain you're in. I mean, maybe you can imagine when someone says, oh, I broke something, you're like, whoa, So, I mean, maybe it's something that can be imagined, but feeling it is different. And I just really felt like my whole arm was dead. It hurt so much. But while I was laying down in the ambulance, I was talking to the guy. I think I was talking his ear off. Cause he was writing stuff down, asking me questions, and I'd answer it, but I didn't go on like tangents, but I would share information, like he would tell me a story and I told him a story. Like we were having a conversation while I'm sitting there in super pain, everything. And I told him how I felt sad for my daughter. And he's like, oh, I'm sure she'll be okay. I wasn't making it about me or what I was going through or how could this happen to me kind of a thing. Like it was all about my daughter and how she felt and making sure she was okay. And I didn't think any more about my situation, how it's going to affect me. So then they took me into the hospital. I explained again to people what happened and, respectful tone, shared it again for I don't know how many times that was at that point. But I told him I didn't want any medication because right now I'm trying to live a more holistic style life. So I didn't want to take anything like that. But I was in a lot of pain. So I will say eventually my husband encouraged me to take something and I knew that I was going to need to if I ever needed to go to the bathroom because getting up made me feel dizzy if I didn't have something. So I ended up taking a little Tylenol and Motrin after they did my x-rays. But while I was laying in the hospital bed and I couldn't move, I had to lay down flat because I still was having dizzy moments. I was in super pain with the ice pack on. I'm just sitting there crying and I'm by myself because my husband went to go get the kids from the party and everything. So I'm sitting there and I'm crying only because I'm in pain, not because woe is me. And anyone who knows me should be impressed by that because I could have easily gotten angry and said, God, why would you do this to me? Now I can't write. Like I knew all the things I wasn't going to be able to do. I wouldn't be able to write. I wouldn't be able to make bread for my kids for their school lunches. I wouldn't be able to drive. Like I was just remembering all these things that I can't do because my dominant arm was the one that got hurt. So I was remembering all these things and not mourning them because I know eventually I'll be able to get back to them. But I was bummed, I guess would be the word, that, this happened. But it was short-lived every single time I felt bummed because what I would do is I would pray and I said, God, I know that you are doing this for a reason. And I said, I want to learn quickly what that reason is. I want to learn the lesson that you are trying to teach me. So I'm going to do what you want me to do as quick as possible so this can be over as quick as possible. I said, I'm not going to ask you to take it away right now because I know you're teaching me something and I want to learn it. That is a prayer that I have never really prayed before, especially in the middle of extreme pain. I've had many situations in my life where I've had to learn the hard way, had to learn something multiple times because I didn't learn it the first time. And I had been tested on my anger, I don't know how many times, and I still have anger outbursts. But with this situation, my whole mindset, everything just changed. I was not angry at all. Like it was gone. I can't say it's gone completely because I still, get frustrated about certain things. But for this whole situation, while I was currently in it, it was gone. Like there was no anger in me at all. It was gentle responses. It was kindness. It was pain and crying, but I was not whining at God, telling him, please take this away. I was not angry with him. I was not regretting going to the birthday party, like none of these things. Like I was just not my usual self, basically. I just felt a relaxing peace and an understanding knowing that he's doing this for a reason. And I want to know what that is because I don't want to have to experience something this difficult again. I asked him for help with something and I knew he was helping me and I was going to accept that help, even though this is not exactly how I expected to get my whole mindset and my spiritual life back on track. This is not how I would have expected it to go, but that's how it went. So I rolled with it. So as I'm thinking of all the stuff that I can't do, I prayed that prayer. And then all I did after that, through the pain, before I took any Tylenol, and even after that, I just started singing different hymns or different older worship songs that I recall in my brain. And I was just singing through my tears, through my pain, just singing while I'm waiting for them to come back and tell me what my x-rays were, while they were waiting to give me the x-rays, waiting to discharge me. Like, that's all I was doing, was singing hymns, crying, and praying that God would help me. The only thing I asked during that whole time that I asked from God was that He would knock me out if they had to pop any bones back in place. Because I knew I wasn't going to be able to handle that with or without medication. If I was awake for that, I would no longer be awake. I would have passed out. So that was the only thing I asked, is if my bones need to be reset, please don't let me be awake for it. That's all I asked. Other than that, I didn't ask for anything. I just prayed and worshiped God, basically. And I don't know how to explain it other than I felt at peace, and I felt my pain not so severe at that point. It was still there, and if you had moved my hand, I would have screamed out in pain because it hurt. But I just wasn't feeling it in those moments. So when I got home, I've still kept that spirit of, it's nobody's fault that this happened. There's a reason for this, and I'm determined to figure out what it is and how to make the best of this situation for however long it lasts. I think since I have been home with this situation, I had one outburst of frustration, not even yelling and anger at anybody, just frustration at, my kids fighting and arguing towards the end of the night on my birthday. I started crying while I was talking to my husband about something, and I just poured out a little sadness. It lasted maybe a minute. That was it. That's been it pretty much. And other than that, I have been gracious, kind, calm, doing the best I can with one hand, trying not to be lazy, trying to just, do what I can to help my husband out, because he's taken on my work now that I can't really do things around the house. He's been taking that up on top of his work he already does. My kids have stepped up. They're helping. They've been a great help as well. I've just been making the best of my situation. And when I get in moments where I get depressed, or not depressed, but when I get, when a slight wave comes towards me of, oh no, you can't write today, or oh no, you can't play Fortnite, or oh no, you can't hold your son. Like, when something negative comes in my brain and I realize that I can't do this right now, instead of sitting and wallowing in that and allowing myself to get to this, oh God, why attitude, I start singing, or I pray and try to thank God for something. I've been able to read my Bible a little more. I've tried to be more positive, realizing that now I can work harder on learning my Russian studies that I'm trying to do. I can listen to podcasts and audiobooks. Like, I can catch up on some movies that I want to watch. Like, I can do things. I can still help out around the house. I'm going to get my left arm's going to be stronger now because I'm using it more. Like, I'm realizing that I can do these things. And it's been frustrating because it's been hard for me to even be able to sleep well with with the splint on. But I keep reminding myself that when I get the cast, it'll probably be a little easier to sleep. Like, I'm just trying to stay more hopeful and more positive and not sink back into who I was or who I can usually become, which is angry, depressed, bitter, and frustrated because I don't get to do the things I want to do. I ask God to help me figure out how to put Him first, how to put everything back in the order it's supposed to be in, how to prioritize, and He answered that prayer. It's not in the most perfect of ways that I thought it would be, although I didn't even know what I thought it would be, how He would do that, but He answered my prayer. And it's through a broken elbow. Okay, I can roll with that. It stinks, but He answered my prayers. What am I going to do? I'm not going to blame Him for it. He answered my prayers. So I'm choosing to have a positive attitude and work through the negative feelings that I do get, through the anger moments, the bitter moments that may come that have crossed my mind. I've been trying to be more gentle in the way that I talk to my kids. I'm trying to be more gracious and thankful for my husband. I'm allowing people to do things for me because I usually like to do things myself. I like to be controlling. If my husband helps me with the laundry, I usually like to correct the way he folded something because he did it wrong. You know, that's just where my brain would go before this situation. But now I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm telling myself, you can't do that because you can't do it yourself and He's helping you. Be thankful for that help. And I'm allowing friends to help me. I have to rely on my son's father to help him get to and from school. A friend from the girls' school, she's taking the kids home for me because I can't drive right now, at least until I figure out what's going on with my cast situation. You know, I've been home for pretty much since it happened. Like, I've gone out, I went out the other day, you know, I made it to church because the pain's not as bad anymore. But it's just things aren't the way that they once were. And it's an adjustment, but I've been able to do it. I've been able to do it because I'm leaning into God. I'm leaning into Him more. I'm depending on Him more. And I just want to boast in God because I would not be where I am right now. I would not be calm and relaxed about this situation. I have not once felt bitter that I cannot write. I have not been angry that I can't play video games. Like, it's frustrating trying to text with one hand, and especially my non-dominant hand, but I've been making all these things work, and it's because God has been good to me and has given me a different spirit. I have been maturing, and it's because of Him. Like, my family sees it. I said, "You guys notice?" And my son actually noticed that I haven't been as angry, which is encouraging because he has anger issues too that I'm trying to help him work through. And what a better way to help him work through it than for him to see in the midst of my difficult situation that I can keep a cool, level head. So, yeah, I have God to thank for that completely, that I am acting the way that I am. And if anyone ever comes up to me and says, "Wow, how can you be that way while you're like this?" I've been cheerful. I have been at peace about this whole thing. It is not me at all. It is God in me helping me to stay strong. And I love Him for that. I mean, He doesn't have to answer our prayers. And I wasn't specific in what I wanted Him to do. So, I mean, it would be foolish of me to be angry at Him for this. if I had said, please don't let me break any bones in the midst of it, and then this happened, then maybe I could be bummed, but even still, I shouldn't be angry at him because he still answered my prayers, and maybe this was the way it needed to happen. This is literally the only way that I would give up any control over the things that I was thinking I was in control over. This has really slowed me down in many different ways and has given me a chance to sit and reflect on God more and to understand him a little better and his word. I don't honestly know how else he could have taught me this lesson of making sure he stays first other than with something serious like this. And no, I don't want anything more serious than this. I mean, this was painful, but at least it wasn't my daughter who got hurt. That was another thing I was very glad for, and I thanked him for it. But I have been choosing, because it is a choice that we all make, the attitudes we have about our life situations. It is a choice we make to be happy or sad about it. And I am choosing to be at peace and to trust that God knows what he's doing with this and that I am in the middle of his plans and that I'm going to grow from this and he's going to get the glory for it because there's no other explanation for it. If you know me well, you know I get a temper, that I get frustrated, that I like to do things my way. My husband can attest to my snarky attitude, but I have been trying to be more gracious. I have been reflecting on my bad patterns. I have been trying to make better choices. I have slowed down and I have tried to be intentional on making time for God. Not just because I want to check off boxes before I go do something else, but because I understand that he answered my prayers for priority, and I need to make sure that he stays my priority because I don't want to learn this lesson again. So, I know this was kind of long-winded, but I hope that this gives you some sort of encouragement to know that God is on your side and he is willing to help you to answer your questions, to give you what is best for you. It may not always look good on the surface, whatever he's doing, but reflect on his goodness, reflect on the times he was faithful in your life, and look at your tough situation through a godly lens. Focus on him. We're here on this earth to glorify God, not ourselves. So you should be focused on the things that glorify him. We should be doing the things that glorify him. We should not blame him when things are tough. We should find a way to handle it, asking for his help and relying on him and trusting in him. So, with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to pray. And yeah, just keep me in your prayers. Like I said, tomorrow I go to my orthopedic appointment. That's when I'll know if I'm going to have surgery and how long it's going to take to be in a cast and rehab and all that jazz. So, yeah. All right. Lord God, thank you for today. Thank you for this chance to share this story with everybody. I pray that it would hit them in the way that you want it to, Lord, that it would be an encouragement and maybe some guidance for them on how they can work through their tough situations too and have a better attitude about it. I pray, Lord Jesus, that you would protect them for the rest of this week. Let them have a good week and enjoy the weather wherever they are. Let them enjoy their families and just bless this podcast as long as it glorifies you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, everyone. Have a good rest of your week. And I will talk to you again on the next episode. Bye.